Here with FSU defensive line coach Terrance Knighton for the Hot Road. Was that just being here now? What's the feeling when you first got here? I guess what was kind of the adjustments for you when you first got here?
I mean, every day I don't take for granted the opportunity I have, to coach at Florida State, and I approach the day that way. I push our guys to that standard, understanding the history of this university, understanding the players that played here, and I make sure our guys are held to that standard. And I tell people all the time the biggest blessing I've had in coaching is being with Coach Odell. And every day, he's a constant reminder of how things need to be just by his presence. And he's helped me so much as a young coach, helped me as a man, helped me as a future father, helped me as a husband, and he's been my biggest blessing. And it's just a standard that we have to get back to, especially up front.
Yeah.
And last year, those guys, going into the season was projected to be probably one of the greatest D lines to ever play through here. And we just want to have that same type of expectation, but we want to hold ourselves to that standard and understand, people can say anything, but it's the work you put in every day. And I constantly remind those guys.
Something that's been talked about a lot with your defensive line room, specifically like at Nebraska, just how close they are, and how like a lot of other position groups will actually like kind of come into your guys' room just because of how that environment that you create. Like, what goes into cultivating that?
Well, I think from the great players I played with in the NFL, that's something. And knowing the history of defensive line play and the history of great defenses in the past, before I was even born, the great players always talk about how close the group were. And playing with the DeMarcus Ware and the Aaron Campman, those type of leaders, and the Peyton Manning, the first things they did, in the spring or in camp was bonding and, going out to dinners together, and Peyton Manning taking the whole team to the casino and, giving everybody money to gamble with. Like, he's like just true leadership things, man. And that's something that stuck with me. And I think just my personality, I was a big personality in the locker room, and, ultimately it always brought the team closer together. And that's one thing you miss about being a player, is that camaraderie in the locker room. So that's one thing I definitely bring back to the room. And, our guys, are very close now, and the rest of the team sees it. And, it gets to a point now where, I don't have to do much anymore. Those guys are just always together.
Obviously, like on the recruiting trail, you are recruiting a bunch of different body types, at Jack, all the interior positions. But like, just the prerequisites for a Terrance Knighton defensive line recruit, I guess, what do you look for? What do those recruits
football
need to have?
Guys, man. The coaching part is easy. The coaching part is easy, man. Just football guys that love the game. And obviously money has become a big thing now in recruiting, and I don't know how much anyone makes or how much we offer guys. I just recruit the hell out of them, and for me, I'm just a straight shooter, man. I'm a normal guy, and I tell all the guys I'm not recruiting. Right? I'm not going to call you and ask you what you had for breakfast every single day just to say I talked to you. You know what I mean? I have real conversations with guys, and from a football standpoint, we just look for a lot of versatility. When you see guys on tape that line up in different positions, especially in this defense, those are the guys you want. You know what I mean? So right now, we're lucky enough to have guys like KJ and Daniel Lyons and D-Jack that are big guys that can move well. So we're lucky in that space. And, for me, man, I just, recruiting it's not hard, but, it's just become more than just relationships. You know what I mean? Because when I was in college, I just wanted a scholarship and a guy that I could trust. And, I take that same approach, and, guys go to other places for other reasons, but, I stick true to who I am. And that's something I learned about Coach Odell, was to coach with love, recruit with love, and, just do that every single day.
The jack position specifically, like what does that role entail? What do you want to get out of a guy that's playing that position?
It's a hard position to recruit, and it's a hard position to develop, because it's really a linebacker that can rush, but it's really a defensive lineman that can play linebacker. So it's tough, but when you find the right guys, when you find those unicorns in high school recruiting, you go after those guys. And I think when you're really good at the jack position on this defense, you're really good on defense, because that's the hybrid guy. And luckily for us right now, we have multiple guys that can do it, you know, whether it's Steph Thompson, Juice, or Elijah from the linebacker position, or James, Amari, or Tay Diggs from the D-line room. So it's going to be a lot of guys on the field at once that can do a lot of multiple things, and I think ultimately that's what makes our defense successful.
What's been kind of the change courses, but what's kind of been the reception from recruits, whether it's guys that are in here this summer or 2026? What's been the reception about your philosophies and the stuff you want to do with defensive line?
I think from a football standpoint, they love the versatility of the front, right? Where you're not just standing there catching blocks and, you know, taking on double teams all day, those type of things. Guys strictly want to make plays, right? And then from a personal standpoint, I think they love how relatable I am, how, you know, honest I am with them. You know, and, you know, sometimes guys don't like the honesty, right? When I bring recruits in, sometimes we'll watch tape and I'll be like, hey, you need to work on this and work on that. And some guys take that and, you know, coach, give me more. And some guys don't. And the football guys want more. So those are the guys that we want here. So, you know, ultimately, you know, for me, man, like I said, just football guys that want to learn, want to work hard, and, you know, just want an opportunity.
Awesome. Appreciate you, man.